Welcome to News 9 Live and you are watching On Point. We have 9 on points on 9 headlines, but let us begin with the first on point. NEET row heats up with the Congress stepping up its attack on the BJP government over irregularities in the results. The National Testing Agency NTA released the NEET UG 2024 results on June 4, 2024, sparking controversy and allegation of irregularities. Several aspirants have raised concern about the inflated marks, leading to an unprecedented 67 candidates achieving the top rank, including 6 from the same examination center in Haryana. Congress has raised concerns over irregularities in the result, and top leaders have spoken. They question the credibility of the result of the NEET exam 2024. Priyanka Gandhi Vadra has demanded an investigation into the alleged exam rigging. Priyanka says, once again, there are reports of the NEET paper being leaked. The future of 2.4 million youth in the country has been compromised again. The cycle of playing with the future of millions of talented youth has been ongoing for past 10 years without coming to an end. Will the Prime Minister of the country say anything about this? A law against paper leaks was passed in Parliament to appease the youth. Where is that law? Why is it not being implemented? On the other hand, Congress leader Randeep Surjewala also questioned the role of grace marks in these results and fairness of awarding top rank based on grace marks.
नीट एग्जाम यानी डॉक्टर और डेंटल डॉक्टर बनने के सपने के एनटीए के नीट एग्जाम में भारी आशंकाएं, विवाद, गड़बड़ झाले की बातें खुलकर सामने आ रही हैं। 24 लाख हिंदुस्तान के युवाओं और उनके माता पिता की आशंकाओं का कोई जवाब नहीं दे रहा, ना एनटीए दे रहा, ना मोदी सरकार दे रही। सवाल ये है कि इन 24 लाख बच्चों के भविष्य का होगा क्या? क्या नीट के एग्ज़ाम का रिजल्ट सही है? क्या एनटीए द्वारा भारी गलती की गई है? क्या मोदी सरकार के पास कोई जवाब है? इन सारी बातों का जवाब मांगा जाना चाहिए। और कुछ ऐसी बातें हैं उन 24 लाख बच्चों के भविष्य की जिनका जवाब हम मांगते हैं। पहला सवाल, 67 बच्चों ने नीट टॉप किया है। 67 बच्चों के 720 में से 720 नंबर आए, ये कैसे हो सकता है? देखिए पिछले सालों में क्या हुआ। 2019 में एक टॉपर था, 2020 में एक टॉपर था, 2021 में 3 टॉपर थे, 2022 में एक टॉपर था, 2023 में 2 टॉपर थे और 2024 में 67 टॉपर। ये अपने आप में असंभव लगता है क्योंकि नीट पेपर में तो नेगेटिव मार्किंग भी है। अब सवाल ये है कि ये संयोग है या प्रयोग।
Congress leader Sachin Pilot also demanded an inquiry into the timing of the result declaration.
ये जो समय से पहले परिणाम घोषित किए और जो अंक नहीं आने चाहिए वो आए, फिर बाद में सफाई दी जा रही है, इसमें कहीं ना कहीं मुझे लगता है कुछ गड़बड़ी की संभावना है। और नौजवानों, लाखों करोड़ों बच्चों के नौजवानों का भविष्य का इसमें मुद्दा है। इस पर तो मुझे लगता है समय खोए बिना इस पर जांच होनी चाहिए। और ऐसा संभव नहीं है कि जो अंक मैं देख रहा हूं वो संभव नहीं आना, उसमें मार्किंग का जो प्रोसीजर है उससे भिन्न होकर यहाँ पर अंक दिए गए हैं। तो कहीं ना कहीं इसमें मुझे लगता है गड़बड़ी हो सकती है। इसकी कोई भी एजेंसी हो उसकी पूरी निष्पक्ष जाँच हो। मैं हमेशा कहता आया हूँ, नौजवानों के भविष्य से खिलवाड़ करने का अधिकार किसी को नहीं है। कोई दल, कोई नेता, अधिकारी, अफसर कोई भी हो, नौजवानों का एग्जाम्स हो, परीक्षा हो, पेपर लीक हो, इसको हम कभी बर्दाश्त नहीं कर सकते, चाहे कोई सरकार हो, कोई भी हो। मैं तो हमेशा नौजवानों के हितों की पैरवी करता आया हूं, करता रहूंगा।
Okay, I'll be playing out the bite of Kanhaiya Kumar after a little time, but let me introduce my guest, Ghanshyam Tiwari, educationist and spokesperson, and Kapil Gupta, CEO, neetprep.com. And the frame of this, I would say the framework of this conversation is, suddenly after a long time at least, issues related with students have become political. It means that there will be some intervention. Mr. Gupta, are you happy that this issue has acquired a political language?
I'm not so sure about it. I think the matter is real. The cutoffs have been going very high since the time NTA took over in 2019. What needs to be addressed is if After scoring 720 out of 720, you don't get AIMS Delhi. What is the credibility of the exam? If you still have to take out a lottery to decide who would get in and who would not, what is the point? Just might as well use board exam results, do a lottery, and decide who gets to go into the best colleges of the country. NTA was specifically created to conduct exams around the country. NEET is a very, very big exam. The quality of the exam is getting compromised. It's almost like in a cricket field, the boundary line, the straight boundary line is 64 meters away. That is the minimum distance. If you keep it at 32 meters and you have an India-Pakistan match in which every ball is hit for a six, you can say, the organizing body can say it was the same for both, but no, the quality of the game got compromised. Similarly, the quality of exam has been compromised with the kind of papers which NTA has been setting, and that has to be put to a full stop.
I am also joined by Ghanshyam Tiwari, founder, PIindia.org, parliamentarian with Innovators, and some Harvard, Kellogg, IIM. I really don't need to get into his profile, but everyone knows he's an educationist. So, Mr. Tiwari, can we put this NEET row in a perspective, which a common man can understand, which has caused so much of heartburn among students and families?
Good evening to you, the viewers, and my fellow co-panelists. Three things are important in this context. One, India, most people who come from a middle class background, poor background, look at education as their passport to success. And in that, two careers that have been legendary among middle class families have been career as an engineer or career as a doctor. NEET exam is a great initiative that has created a vision for those students who aspire to become doctors. And the number of students since the exam came in 2016 has gone from roughly 7 lakh to now 25 lakhs. These are the number of aspirants. So there's a huge responsibility that NDA carries to ensure that the exam is conducted with the due process and the most meritorious students are selected as a process. And when this responsibility is not taken seriously, you are encountered with the situation that we encounter today, that students are complaining. There are clear irregularities that are emerging from the results. And once the irregularities emerge, then every aspect of the exam is under scrutiny. For example, why did the results come sooner than when it was required? Why are the marks, why have some students received marks that are not possible in the format of the exam? Why certain students at certain centers have topped, or the number of toppers itself? As these number of issues emerge, it begins anxiety in a country where unfortunately a lot of students end up taking either finding themselves in depression or taking some serious steps which they shouldn't take as a result of results. So it is important that the government, the previous education minister, the current government, the government who is come to power, should respond in a very clear way such that the anxieties are arrested, and at the same time we have to appeal as people in public life to every student and every family that no exam in the world is worth putting your life on the line. So it is important that the anxieties of students is also arrested, and it is at the same time important, both from the side of government and NTA, that every question that is being raised is clearly answered.
Okay. Now, Kanhaiya Kumar, who lost in Delhi, but a prominent leader of the Congress party, he also raised this issue. And he questioned the timing of the result and also raised concerns about the integrity of the National Testing Agency.
नीट का रिजल्ट आने के बाद देश भर में कई विद्यार्थियों की आत्महत्या की खबरें आई। ये हमारे लिए बहुत दुख की बात है, और आप सब जानते हैं इस देश में 1 घंटे में 2 जवान जो है आत्महत्या कर रहे हैं। सरकार को इस बात को गंभीरता से लेना चाहिए। सिर्फ चुनाव से पहले परीक्षा पर चर्चा करने से नहीं होगा। चुनाव के बाद जब सरकार बनती है तो परीक्षा को लेकर के जो गड़बड़ियां देश में हो रही है उसको इमीडिएटली एड्रेस करना चाहिए। नीट का जहां तक सवाल है, इसमें 3 मुद्दे जो हैं प्रमुखता से निकल करके सामने आए हैं। पहला, बड़े पैमाने पे जो है धांधली हुई है। कई जगह पे जो है प्रश्न पत्र लीक होने का आरोप भी हुआ है, जैसे पटना में कुछ गिरफ्तारियां हुई हैं। और तीसरा, अजीबोगरीब परिणाम आए हैं, जैसे 67 लोग जो हैं रैंक 1 है। एक ही सेंटर के जो कई लोग जिनका सीरियल नंबर 1 है और लगातार एक रो में बैठे हुए हैं, उनका रैंक 1 आया है। तो उसको लेकर के इस देश के विद्यार्थियों का एक कंसर्न है। सरकार जो है तुरंत इसको एड्रेस करे, और कांग्रेस पार्टी ने, हमारे राष्ट्रीय अध्यक्ष ने मांग किया है कि सुप्रीम कोर्ट की निगरानी में नीट को लेकर के जो है एक निष्पक्ष जांच होनी चाहिए।
In response, the NTA dismissed the allegations attributing the high scores to changes in the NCERT textbooks and the provisions of grace marks for the lost time at the examination centre. The Calcutta High Court has sought a response from the National Testing Agency on a plea questioning alleged irregularities while conducting the 2024 NEET examination. So let me go back to Mr. Gupta. Mr. Gupta, what sort of reform would you suggest and propose?
So first of all, we need to address the situation at hand. The situation at hand is that the result is not credible. The cutoff last year was 610, 610 marks. It has increased to 655. There is suspicion that that has happened because of this grace marks that have been given in a very ham-handed manner. So what needs to happen is the result needs to be republished. They need to tell all those students who were given grace marks which center they were from, what was their earlier score, what is the new score, and if it is found that irregularities around mass level leak has happened, then probably a re-NEET remains the only option. Moving forward, there also needs to be confidence given to the students who are going to write NEET next year or year after that the exam is going to get conducted in a much more professional manner. What that means is the quality of the paper is going to be much better. The distribution of the marks is not going to be like 67 people at 720. We at neetprep.com also conduct regular tests, almost 200 tests in a year. And if we are able to control the quality of the test paper, we are able to control what is the maximum marks someone would be able to get. We are able to come out with a proper distribution of ranks. I'm sure NTA has much better resources than an organization like ours. So that needs to happen, and probably a new law that needs to come into place is just something which would ensure that these kind of papers are not created, which would come out with 67 people at 720. That is an absolute travesty. If you are a testing agency, you should be held accountable for the quality of test paper that you prepare. You just can't prepare anything that you want and say it is the same for everyone. So why worry?
Okay. Why has this, Brijesh, become political?
Well, it has become political because, it involves the future of 24 lakh students. If 2.4 million students are giving this particular examination and, there is no way on earth, political parties, other parties will not get involved into it. And I think, for the first time, I would say that if the politics led to a serious restructuring or overhauling or taking to task, those people who have indulged in this kind of shenanigans, I think nothing better than that. Because, it's the future of the student. People, if you're coming from a lower middle class, how the parents send their children to study, it's a very laborious, economic intensive process through which a student gets to this level. And, when you have 67 kids, and if you compare the data, which Randeep Surjewala was reading, and much before that, when this controversy broke out, you have only 1 or 2 or 3 max kids scoring a maximum of 720, and now all of a sudden you have 67 children scoring max, and there's and the NTA is saying that there is no way there is a problem. 8 students sitting in a straight line are getting top marks, and they say that nothing wrong has happened. There has to be an investigation into it, and heads should proper, maximum punishment should be given to all these people who have indulged into this, because you're playing with the lives and future of these lakhs and lakhs of students.
Mr. Tiwari, I'll ask the same question to you, which I had put to Mr. Gupta. Is there a way to reform the system? To get a thing done is one thing, but to reform a system is another thing. This never happens when there are examination for Indian Army. This does not happen when you have examination for IAS officers. Why is this happening in NEET? Is there a structural difference, sir?
Kartikeya, there are 2 things that are important. One is that the immediate step, the government should take responsibility and ensure that the anxieties of students who are at risk because their aspirations are high and their parents are taken care of, and any questions that are raised are transparently answered. That is one. Second is with respect to reforms. I think when we create a system that lakhs and lakhs of students are writing the same exam at the same time, it automatically creates a massive risk. And the way going forward in the age of AI, what is more possible is you create systems that have multiple tiers, and there are students who are taking a tier 1 exam and then a tier 2 exam. So that risks are at a per exam level are not very high. The NTA has in various formats tried different formats of tier 1, tier 2 exams. And I believe that best minds will be put to work so that we do not create a situation for future that any exam creates such volume of students, such number of students, that those 3 hours become a break point for a student. So it's a break point for a system, for a student. I think going forward, using technology, using things like
doesn't it happen in other exams? As a I'm not a NEET expert, and I'll confess, but the first thing which comes to me is why doesn't it happen in other system where these examinations take place? There are multiple exams which takes place in India.
If you look at it, the whole spectrum of paper leak, irregularities with exams, center, CUET. India is a country where roughly 1 crore or more students every year are writing various exams. And it is important that the government that comes on board now uses technology to structure it better. There cannot be an exam that at the same time 25 lakh students are writing. This can be structured better so that the risks at the level of per exam are reduced. That said, on the immediate basis, the answers with respect to the NEET exam have to be given by the government so that anxieties are arrested. I think it's a lot of hard work that students put in for 1 year, 2 years, sometimes 3-4 years to be able to come to a point where they think that they have done extremely well in the exam. And when suddenly that goalpost shifts, it breaks their heart. I hope that the goalpost is not shifting. I hope the exam is not reconducted. I hope that NTA is able to give a concrete answer, and I hope that we don't look at a spectre where there are 25 lakh disappointed students.
Okay. Mr. Gupta, there's another thing. When you sit for an exam, when you sit for an IS exam, when you sit for a defense exam, it's the fairness you are expecting from the system. And how emotionally wrenching it is for the students that when that the system is unfair. That's the worst part. You expect the system to be fair and evaluate you properly.
Oh, it's terrible. Ghanshyam said that these exams are your passport to a better life, to social mobility for a lot of people around the country. We are an opportunity-starved country. These are our passports to moving forward. So when something like this happens, I'll give you an example. I was in Moradabad yesterday, and I didn't know I was invited to a felicitation function at a coaching setup where the kid was getting 639. He is still not aware that he's not going to get a college. Just imagine this. He comes from a very poor background, worked very hard. After 12th, dropped for 1 year, went to this coaching setup. They sponsored everything, did not charge money from the kid. He is expecting that he's getting into government college. I did not have the guts to tell him that he's not getting there. And this should not have happened. This is scarring the kid for a very, very long time. So that is why NTA should understand, and the respective authority should understand, that it is very important that they should come out and explain this whole thing transparently.
Kapil, it is the first thing, that's the first point of contact, I would say, where the faith of a child is broken in a system. Absolutely. As a student who has gone to college, done BA and MA, I thought that this evaluation system, is fair. When I got the ranks 2, 17, 37, I thought it to be fair. Imagine when you are 18, 16, 21, 22, and then someone tells you the system is not fair. I think you are emotionally wrenching that young citizen.
There are hundreds. I'm from Allahabad. I have seen hundreds and hundreds and thousands of kids coming back from a very poor background. Their father as a farmer not making enough money, sending money to the kid to study, and after you put through the year long year into study with so much economical and emotionally invested, and then this kind of thing happens, it's heartbreaking both for the parents as well as the child.
I would say, Kapil, that this is not irregularity. I wouldn't even use the word that this is a problem. I would not even use the word, this is even criminal. I would use a stronger word. I would use a word, Kapil, that this is pure injustice. This is pure injustice.
No, it is, and it has to be addressed at any point of time between 18 to 25. around 1 to 1.5 crore people are preparing for exams. One simple thing that can be done is no exam should happen once. It should be happening at least twice or thrice a year. Do them online. Don't make them happen in a physical manner. And if you're not able to provide a good distribution of marks, for example, in situations like this, when 67 people are at 720, conduct the exam again for top 10%, top 5% students, so that a better distribution is arrived at. There are practical solutions that are possible, but there has to be a willingness to listen and a willingness to change. This problem has been going on for a very long time. A lot of papers are conducted, and some kind of, there should be a national exam minister probably in the new government, because exams are so important for our youth.
National exam minister, I'll quote Modi. There are laws in this country, but he said in his first term they are not being implemented. My point is that we go after the coal mafia, we have gone after the steel mafia.
Nobody goes after exam mafia.
No one goes after the education mafia. If you look at Mr. Tiwari, if you look at
Papers
the problem,
are leaked.
The education mafia is one of the biggest mafia, entrenched both economically and politically. You just need to walk out to the outskirts of NCR, and then you'll find what the education mafia is. Then control of land, then control of the destiny of your children. They control the education system, and they're also in control of the political economy, electorally, because they're powerful people. It's like a small investment they have done here and there.
I think the truth in India today is that the road from a 18 to 20-year education that a common child goes through to a job that they desire, right, is a broken road. That bridge is broken, and nobody tells the child when they are going through it. One place where this bridge may work is when you succeed in an exam. So it is important that for those students who look at this bridge as a way to better career, the exams are transparent and they are conducted properly. I think there's a broader question about the education mafia, but particularly again with respect to the NEET exam, this exam in focus, I think that this is a problem that requires an accountable, responsible stance from the government and a transparent response and activity from NTA.
Response, but I think there should be some accountability. The real issue is we have been debating this. The number of programs we have done on this channel are immense, but where is the accountability?
Zero accountability.
Where is the accountability?
NTA has come up with a statement saying that no paper leak has happened, so we are not going to. There should be a proper investigation.
Absolutely.
How did 67 kids got 720? What is the scientific rationale behind grace marks? Were those students given grace marks? Wasn't the system rigged so that 6 students sitting in one sequence getting 720 marks?
Absolutely.
I mean, these are such glaring inconsistencies that any single, any individual with even a low IQ would understand that everything is all not
Mr.
all
Gupta,
right.
the problem is there is lack of accountability. Someone has given a statement, so it's okay. Why can't there be a probe? There should be a proper probe, a time bound 30 days, 25 days. वो क्यों नहीं हो सकता है, Mr. Gupta?
No, absolutely, it's required. The trust of the student needs to be restored in this system. Otherwise, every time if they wonder, I will work very hard, but I don't know what will happen. And I'll tell you this thing. Since last 2-3 years, it has happened that students, when they're writing the exam, they are very happy. When they get the result, they are very unhappy. Now, this thing has to stop. I mean, this is heartbreaking. There has to be a proper probe, credible probe, so that the trust in the system, the examining body, the quality of paper, whether it has been fair or not, it has to be restored. It is not done. This is a very, very big exam. A lot of dreams, a lot of investment happens on the part of parents. When they can't afford, they understand education is the best investment. This thing has to be done properly, in a proper, accountable, credible manner.
Mr. Tiwari, why do you think the agency is not going in for a probe?
I think there are two things. Practically, we are just out of an election, and there are things that are chaotic. A new government is to take the responsibility. That is one. But I think NTA is an authority. It's an independent authority. They must show the leadership that is required at this stage. They the students, 25 lakh students in this particular case, their families, they must show the responsibility that is required, the leadership that is required. I think there is no reason why they should not do a probe if so many questions are being raised. There are some simple
But
techniques that are
I think the
available.
fruitful
For
point
example,
which has been raised in this debate is that there should be a national examination minister. I really feel so. We have a cooperative minister, we have a coal minister, we have a steel minister, we have an environment minister. When millions of kids in a billion-strong country is there, we should have an examination minister to ensure that fairness, because these are the citizens of tomorrow. Ask any educationist, what is the foundation you are creating for a young man or a woman? That the system is unfair. For the first thing, the system of evaluation is the first reality of the republic, which is unfair. Is this what you are telling them? Correct?
Oh, absolutely, and I think they are very well aware of the fact that it is unfair. There have been several cases in Uttar Pradesh and others where the government had to crack down and invoke NSA against the paper leak. Kids, lakhs and lakhs of students go or examinees go to give exam, and they find that the papers have been leaked. How do you explain that? And there should be, the stringent of the harshest of the punishment act which should be applied on them, but it never applied.
Mr. Tiwari, please conclude your point, then I'll go to Mr. Gupta.
I'm saying in the day of data science, a probe is relatively easy. You can look at the data related to various centers, past performances of students, including the ones in their class 10th and class 12th exam, to identify outliers. If a student hasn't performed well in class 10th and 12th, and suddenly you see them as a topper, and if the student has taken an exam previously and they score very poorly, this student is an outlier. And there's a good chance that the student worked very hard and became a topper. But there is also a chance that the student is appearing as a topper because of a irregularity. So today, a probe is a data science driven system, and it can easily be implemented. NTA should demonstrate leadership, take accountability, and immediately respond to students.
Mr. Gupta, I think that's a good suggestion, which Mr. Tiwari has spoken.
It is, and I also want to add as my final word, students are distressed right now. I believe it is responsibility of the parents that they should not let the frenzy get whipped up to a level where something wrong happens. It is important that students understand that they have to fight and take a stand, but not get too involved and too emotionally active. This is not an easy time, as I was explaining the situation of this kid in Moradabad, but no exam is worth more than your life. At the end of the day, kids are only 17. Hopefully, there is going to be a proper resolution of this situation, but life moves on, and they should not get too cynical, too hysterical, and distress themselves too much. I think that is very important.
I think that's very well put. Thank you, Mr. Tiwari. Thank you, Mr. Gupta. Thank you, Brijesh, for joining me on this conversation. And I would definitely say at the end of this first on point that India should have an examination minister, and India must have an examination minister. Day after tomorrow on Sunday evening at 6 p.m., ministers are being sworn in, and I would put this question on behalf of the News 9 Live, the connected TV operation of the TV9 network. Then why can't India have an examination minister who can deliver fairness to the students, who can deliver a fair opportunity to the students, who can deliver a fair chance to the future citizens of this country who would take command of it? So this was on point number 2. But the on point which I'm going to talk about is now Kangna slapgate row heats up, with farmers' unions backing the CISF person who stabbed the Mandi MP.